Night had already set in when we reached Madurai. Leaving our luggage at the station and before ascertaining the whereabouts of our lodgings, we went straight to the temple. It was a Friday evening, which is a day of special religious festivities. Walking through the crowded streets, we passed under the great gopurams of the main entrance, whose dark pyramid-like form stood out impressively against the starry sky. The lit-up doorway bore the well-known symbol of the six-pointed star, formed by two interlaced triangles. In the outer precincts, a vast hall was used as a sort of marketplace, where hundreds of Indians, squatting on stone slabs, were busy selling their miscellaneous goods: coconut and plantain fruit, red powder for the caste mark, carved sandalwood statuettes of Meenakshi, the goddess of the temple, of Shiva, Krishna, and other deities, and above all, an abundance of freshly picked flowers, made into fragrant wreaths with taste and skill. After wandering about for some time and losing ourselves in endless passages, we finally emerged in a pillared gallery running round the golden water-lily tank, to which steps descended on every side. Following the crowd, we attained that part of the temple immediately preceding the sanctuary. Standing behind a pillar, we caught a glimpse of the inner shrine. The noise was deafening, and there was an incessant stream of people going in and out. Drawing our saris over our heads so as to attract less attention, we sat down and tried as usual to contact the particular atmosphere of the place through a tuning in with its vibrations. The spiritual power was almost physically tangible, and in spite of all the disturbing factors which would seem to have prevented any kind of concentration, there was no difficulty in establishing the inward stillness, untroubled by the working of the outer senses. As I opened my eyes, to my astonishment, I found one of the Brahmin priests standing before me with an offering of small pieces of coconut and sugar cane from the shrine of the goddess, holy ashes for the throat and forehead, and a wonderful garland made of jasmine and red roses. It was such a startling and unexpected sight that for a few moments I remained speechless, while joyfully accepting the gifts. This was indeed a proof that our Hindu brothers considered us not as strangers, but as of their own kith and kin, even though outwardly we were not of their race or religion. They felt instinctively our state of mind and recognized that we were fellow travelers on the upward path. They knew that we loved and tried to understand them. We were received with such kindness and hospitality by an Indian family with whom we immediately felt at home. Our host was a most learned man, combining the finest qualities of heart and intellect. His splendid work in the educational field and tireless efforts to promote the right sort of education in the schools and colleges of Madurai are a fine example of what a single individual may do in his immediate sphere of life. His married son is as remarkable along his own lines. He reminded us somewhat of an Italian, having Roman-like features. His young wife was rarely seen except at meal times, but her invisible hand efficiently ran the household. Several little boys, full of energy and merriment, often made their existence heard and occupied an important place in the family. Many times during our week's stay, we returned to the temple and were never tired of watching the crowd and looking at the wonderful carved pillars and innumerable stone figures, whose symbolism our host explained to us in a most fascinating manner, revealing its inner and spiritual meaning. Visits to the various schools had been arranged for us, and here again we were able to meet both teachers and pupils. What information we gained but confirmed what we had learnt in Tanjore, and stressed the necessity of a truly national education. In one of the girls' schools, we were charmingly received by the headmaster. The smaller children, for our benefit, went through a sort of complicated dance. Each child held on to a colored string attached to the top of a flagstaff, around which they turned in a certain order, so that their combined threads twisted according to a definite pattern, making up one great chord. The movements were slow and rhythmical, and the children sang as they danced. It struck us that this was a wonderful game for teaching young people cooperation with one another. Although each child acted differently, all were conscious of their function in the whole. The final result might be spoilt by one individual mistake, pointing to the fact that harmony in society can only be brought about by the right cooperation of all its members. The singing class was held in the garden, in a small open-air shed, giving the necessary protection from the sun and rain. The girls were at first a little shy, but soon they plucked up courage and, forgetting our presence, sang their old Indian songs of love and devotion to gods and to the motherland. One night we went to the cinema with some of our young friends to see a purely Indian film. We were curious to know what kind of play appealed to them. Here again, the dominant element was a religious one, the lives of the gods and goddesses being the favorite theme, offering endless material for dramas in which the superhuman intelligences mix freely with the people. In Krishna Lila, we were shown the story of the divine childhood, marked by many miraculous happenings. It is told how one day while the babe was sitting on his mother's knee and she was scolding him for some childish prank, as he opened his mouth to cry, lo and behold, the whole universe appeared before her gaze, and she saw God's teeming life in all his myriad forms, till the veil of illusion once more mercilessly drawn across her eyes. But most dear perhaps to the Indian heart is Krishna as the divine cowherd, playing the flute and stealing the hearts of the youthful maidens. Then come his victorious battles against the powers of darkness in the shape of demons, monsters, and cruel tyrants. Although some parts were very childish and showed that the cinema in India is still in its infancy, one could not help feeling that a great future awaits it. Indian films have something unique to give to the world, but they will only find their true expression when they cease trying to imitate the West. Learning to use the modern technique, may they keep preciously the Indian spirit, the Indian outlook on life, the Indian conception of the world in its eternal aspects. The incomparable beauty of the natural scenery should be used whenever possible, instead of resorting, as too often the case, to artificial contrivances. Funds permitting, what wonderful scenes could be turned in the jungles, on the banks of the Ganges, in the Himalayas, and in the ancient palaces. Perhaps the greatest mistake that Indian film stars can make is to make up as though they have a fair complexion. Their dark skin is in perfect harmony with their particular type of beauty, and it seems a pity that they are not aware of the fact. A young Indian had become our faithful companion and was ready to accompany us wherever we wished. He was desirous of taking us to see various of his friends and acquaintances, both well-to-do and very poor. In one of the houses we were received by an artist who most kindly offered us, on leaving, a watercolored sketch of Madurai Temple, while a photographer presented us with some excellent reproductions of Indian sculpture. There seem to be two indispensable ways in the South of showing hospitality to passing guests. The one is to offer them coffee, and the other consists in entertaining them with songs accompanied by harmonium or veena. Both customs were very pleasant, save that after 5 or 6 calls on successive people, one was tempted to refuse further refreshment had it not been a matter of strict politeness to receive it.